Really excited to have Sam on today. Sam Cooke is the owner of Blue Bricks magazine, and Sam has taken the magazine from quite a lesser known publication to one of the most trusted brands in property. So we're going to really unpack Sam's career, how he has taken the magazine in one of my first jobs was working for a publishing house in building trade magazines, and it was quite a nervous time working there because it was quite apparent that the specification market, so architects, developers, were using magazines less and less to find the products and services that they wanted to, and they were actually going more online to view their editorial content and news stories. And it's incredible the job that Sam's done in terms of taking Blue Bricks into such a trusted brand, but also such a brand that people are so heavily involved with and so keen. I know that the new edition of the magazine is coming out very, very soon, and it's very eagerly anticipated by Sam's audience. So, as I say, if you want to drop a introduction in the chat. Great to see Mark and Ben both introducing themselves. Let us know who you are, what you do, and where in the country you are today. It'd be great to get a bit of networking going. And of course, this is a totally interactive session. So if you have got questions for Sam, please do put them in the chat and we'll get round to those as quickly as possible. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Chris. I'm the co-founder of UK Homes Network, which we launched back in January of last year with my brother David. I've worked in estate agency, house building and property finance. So got quite a well-rounded career within the property space. Yeah, really excited to have you guys on the call with us today. Sam, do you want to do this bit? I'll probably
Right,
butcher.
go on then. So yeah, to took me by surprise that one. So basically, what we do, guys, is basically a special offer for Chris and you guys for being here. It's basically I'll tell you a little bit more about Blue Bricks magazine shortly and what we do. But essentially, the way we work is we have a subscription base, and those subscribers receive access to Blue Bricks, which is a physical print magazine. You can see an example of it there. But we also do monthly online networking events alongside that to bring our members together, and we have like masterclasses. So the next one is in June, and we've got Susie Carter talking about commercial property, how to get into commercial property, and sort of the benefits of investing in that strategy. I wanted to do a special offer for Chris, which is basically the annual subscription to Blue Bricks, which includes 12 events and 6 issues of Blue Bricks plus every issue we've ever published. It's normally £60 for the year. For this event, we're doing it for £27 for the year. But on top of that, we're actually doing a 3 month trial. So what that means is if you scan that QR code there, you'll get access to the latest issue, which is going to print Monday. And you'll also get access to that commercial property event completely free of charge. If you enjoy it, stay signed up and it's just £27 for the year. If not, you can cancel absolutely no cost. And at least you've got a magazine and event and some networking behind you as well.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I'm going to dive. We'll dive into the magazine shortly, but if you haven't ever seen a copy of it, then I strongly recommend it. It's incredible the stories, some really heartwarming and also heart-wrenching stories that are being shared in the magazine every month. And there's a lot you can learn in there. Some of the biggest names in the industry are featured in every issue. So yeah, and not only that, obviously with the event side of stuff, Sam's invited me to a couple of the events up in Leeds, and they've been one of the best networking events that I've been to. I think the last one that I went to with Scott, literally there were people standing at the back trying to get in because it was that packed. So yeah, great event. So yeah, you guys will be aware of what UK Homes Network is by now. We obviously want to be the #1 alternative to social media for the UK residential property and construction industry. We're only going to get there with your help. So please do sign up. It is free to create an account, and you can start networking with nearly 2,000 property professionals across the country. We'd love to have you in there. I want to hit 2,000 members by my birthday, which is in July. So please do make sure you scan that QR code and we'll see you there. Just to say as well, we are launching our first ever live event. I was just speaking to Sam off camera, and Sam's going to be there. We're really excited to have him. this is going to be a completely unique event. It's not, I don't think there's been anything like this in the property industry before. We are going to be hiring out an entire brewery in central Birmingham. So the Indian Brewery is a fantastic venue. It's recently opened. Um, the food is incredible. They've got their own beers on tap, and we're going to have the venue from 6 o'clock till 10:30. Tickets are £15. For that, you'll get two free drinks, free food all night. We've also got live entertainment. We've got a local singer. I've been to watch her. She's absolutely fantastic. And we're also going to have exhibitors around the room from some of the friends and partners of UK Homes Network. So if you haven't got your ticket, we are 19 days away from the event. Please do make sure you scan that QR code. And we would love to see you there. It's going to be a fantastic event, and we've got lots of people already signed up who are going to be in attendance. So can't wait to see you guys all there in person. If you need to jump off this webinar, you can find all our previous webinars and the recordings available in the UK Homes Network app under our premium membership. You'll be able to see our last webinar with Scott Marshall, where he gave a fantastic look at the property market. You may remember we had him on last year and he made some quite bold predictions, which actually came true. So if you missed last week's webinar, make sure you sign up to premium and you can access all those webinars in there. Not only that, with premium membership, you will also get access to Land Match, House Match, and Commercial, which are our exclusive deal sharing groups. So if you have a property deal that you would like to share with motivated buyers or motivated landlords, motivated property developers, or you have a requirement for a deal, please make sure you sign up to premium and you can post it in those exclusive groups, and we'd love to have you in there. All right, so that's it. We're going to crack on with the conversation with Sam. So I am absolutely thrilled to have Sam with us today. Sam, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, great. Um, so we've probably known each other for what, 12 months now, bumping into each other at various events and
Oh, I'm trying to think where we first met, but I feel like I've known you absolutely ages now.
yeah, it's that constant networking. Every time I'm at an event, you seem to be there, and I think me and you have bonded quite well over the fact that we're obviously sort of young business owners. We're sort of trying to make a name for ourselves in the industry, and we share a lot of the same values. But once I got to know you, it sounds like we've got quite a similar journey through property. I was explaining there that I started off in a estate agency, which is similar to yourself. Is that how you started out? Was in a estate agency?
Yeah, it was. It was. I was sort of 19 when I decided I wanted to get into property. But the problem I kind of had was I didn't know anybody in property. So I had no idea how to do it. And I sort of looked at podcasts and YouTubes as we all do, fell into the get rich quick stuff. Oh, this looks really easy. You don't need money, experience, or brain cells. You can become a millionaire overnight. But I sort of looked at, how do I do this? And I did go to a few of the day events. Thankfully, I was switched on enough to realize this is a really hard upsell and it seems a bit too good to be true, but I still learned a bit from them. And I sort of thought, well, how do you get into property? And the first sort of job that came to mind, which was the only one I sort of knew of, was estate agency. So yeah, I started out as an estate agent in 2020.
Right. And what area were you covering with that?
I was in Bradford, a town called Keighley. Keighley is an interesting place because there's these lovely areas like Haworth, Bronte country that you might know of that are gorgeous, and then there's some really rough, run-down areas. And as the new estate agent in the office, those were typically the viewings I got sent to.
Yeah, there used to be a saying, if it stinks of piss, think of Chris. That was the one that's. So, were you mainly focused on then sort of the lower end of the market, those ones that you could flip? I guess that was quite a good gateway into working with landlords and developers then.
Yeah, it was a strange one because I mean in Keighley, I'll give you an example. It was this huge house, like 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, two reception rooms, a kitchen the size of my living room, like a manor house basically with loads of land around it. And that was only worth 500,000. So we did have like higher end stuff, but because of the area that I live in, that stuff is like for anyone that's from London and the South, pennies really. And then yeah, we had the lower end stock, which was a lot of rundown properties. And you did get a lot of investors that were going to those. So I kind of used to take the landlords and the investors on the viewings, and I just ask them loads of questions while they're like, "What are you planning on doing with it? You know, how are you doing it? Why is this a potential deal?" And because I was a really young lad and I've always looked a lot younger than I am, typically these people were like really willing to help me and walk me through. And I think they liked that someone was showing interest in what they were doing. And I did learn quite a lot through doing that on how investors think and what they're looking for. Like, for example, seeing an investor walk into a derelict property, and when I just see a derelict property, they see if I put a hallway here and then a doorway there, that can be a room for a HMO. And I just started seeing things differently.
Great. And did you enjoy your time in a state agency? Because I know it's quite a tough job.
I hated it. I love, yeah, I hated it, man. I loved the property viewings. I love the property side of things. I just really didn't like the team that I worked with. They were just not nice people.
Right. Okay. Because that's the thing, isn't it? Was it a high street branch?
Yes.
Yeah, it can be
Yeah.
really key. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the bonds you can make with working in a high street branch are incredible, but you all have to be on the same team. And particularly if you're the new guy going in and they've been in there 20, 15 years, it can be, yeah, very, very clicky.
I, I think if I liked Fake Tan and Love Island, I'd have got along better with everyone. But unfortunately, it just wasn't my bag.
That surprises me you don't like that.
Really?
So, obviously with the property side, that was the bit that really, really, really interested you.
Yeah.
What would you say was probably the most rewarding part of being in a estate agency?
Think it was finally being around people that were doing what I wanted to do and having those questions answered. Like it stopped feeling like this impossible dream to something that, oh wow, actually people are doing this and I'm meeting these investors and they're sort of normal everyday people like me that have started out from normal backgrounds. A lot of them were working class people or past tradespeople or, had saved money. So a lot of people in property have come from that sort of background and that was the most rewarding part, I think.
Amazing. And Sam, you were obviously in a estate agency for a while, but you have ventured your career into sort of other areas. Normally, when I get someone as a guest on for a webinar, they might say to me, Chris, I'm just a little bit nervous about coming on this. I've not really done much public speaking. But with you, I had absolutely no concerns at all because you've had one of the hardest jobs in terms of public speaking that is known to man, which is you had sort of a brief career in stand-up comedy. Is that right?
Yeah, I was a stand-up comedian for a while. And I was doing that alongside a full-time job on evenings doing gigs. It were an experience.
And I think that really comes through when you're doing your live events because you absolutely hold court on stage and the way you deliver it and the occasional joke that's thrown in there is fantastic. Um, so yeah, in terms of stand-up comedy, how did that go? Did you sort of tour the country? Did you, or is it sort of quite, what happened?
Yeah, so basically the way that stand-up comedy works, if you an open mic, so there's kind of three tiers of comedy. There's open mic, which is almost like you're training to go to the next tier. The next tier is paid gigs, so that's when you might get like £300 for doing a night, and then obviously the tier up from that is your Jimmy Carr's live at the Apollo, quite famous people. So I was doing open mic nights up and down the country. I sort of limited myself to 2 hours away, so I'd finish work, I'd drive to like Liverpool, or I'd drive up to like the Lake Districts and stuff like that and do a comedy night. You had job boards where people would advertise like there's a gig on this evening. The sort of problem was that you didn't know how good the gig was until you got there. There were some ones that you knew you were guaranteed good night, like you might know Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool. That's really famous. I've done that a couple of times. But there's other nights where you'd travel 2 hours and it'd be three piss heads in a pub that didn't even know comedy was on. So those were the tricky nights.
Yeah, I'm a massive comedy fan, and when I found out that I was absolutely fascinated to hear your sort of insights of what it's like. Um, and I guess obviously stand-up comedy is quite a ruthless business and quite difficult to sort of maintain, particularly when you look at some of the stand-up comics that are household names now. They were doing it for, 5 years, with very little money, borrowing money to just stay on the road, that kind of thing. I know, is it Russell Kane said that he didn't get paid for at least 3 or 4 years before he actually got his first paid gig. So I
Yeah.
imagine that's really, really difficult and takes its toll. Is that kind of your motivation for leaving then? Because is that where you came across Blue Bricks, where you sort of shifted out, or?
Yeah, I left comedy, mate, to be entirely honest with you. A, because I realised I was ambitious and, I wanted to grow a business and do that sort of stuff. And B, comedy isn't what it used to be. It's very, very political now. And as much as it's about training to be the best comedian you can be, it's also about who you know and who you please and the jokes that you do and don't tell. And it's not the audience that are the problem, but the other comedians very much. You can't say that, or you can't do that, or if you do say this thing or associate with this person, then you can't go to these events that are going to knock you up to that next tier. And I mean, entrepreneurs, mate, we don't do well with authority. And I didn't like that whole side of things. I ran my own comedy night as well, which I absolutely loved. I ran that in Keighley for, can't remember how long I was doing it, but every month we had a comedy night. That's where I learned to run my own events, actually. And I just raised the money for charity. I didn't take any money for me or the comedians, and I loved doing that. So yeah, it was more the ambition and the sort of politics that led me away from comedy.
So what you're telling everyone is that basically you were cancelled.
I wasn't cancelled, but I was seeing I saw close friends getting cancelled and they were the most nicest, most genuine, kindest people you'd ever meet. That were and they were also the funniest. And I think a lot of the reason that they got cancelled was because they were tearing rooms apart, and other people were jealous of that. And it's like Game of Thrones, mate, and I just wasn't enjoying it.
Um, and I guess that you've obviously accrued quite a few skills there in terms of, your public speaking, the ability to run events, understanding sort of how to navigate difficult people in difficult situations, which if you didn't learn by a state agency, I mean, do you know what I mean? So talk to me about Blue Bricks. How did you come across Blue Bricks? Because I think that, a lot of people, me included, I thought you founded the magazine, but it was actually you took on the magazine. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, mate. So basically what happened was I was so after a state agency, I lost my job during lockdown, and I thought it'd be a great idea to start a sourcing business, learning the sort of techniques that I took from estate agency, 'cause, 3 weeks to flatten the curve, then COVID was going to be over and it'd all be fun and games. That didn't happen, and we ended up, what was it, 2 years of lockdown and multiple other things. So trying to run a sourcing business when the housing market was changing every other week and investors were highly uncertain was quite difficult. And basically at that time, Blue Bricks, I was connected with the then editor of Blue Bricks and one of the owners, a lady called Caroline. And Caroline basically said, look, we want a marketing manager. This was during the Kickstart program. Don't know if anyone remembers that. You could hire someone for like £5. Um, during Kickstart, come on board, work 25 hours a week. You've got your guaranteed income. We'll help you find investors. And you'll also be in an office with a guy called Nathan. Now, Nathan was one of the owners of Blue Bricks magazine, and he ran a private equity firm. And at the time, there was a few startup companies under the private equity firm that were working from this office. So because I'd started in business when networking events weren't happening because of lockdown, I'd never met other business owners before, really. I'd never met entrepreneurs or people like that. So I was drawn by the opportunity of the guaranteed income while I was growing my business and the opportunity to meet people I could learn from. And then when I started working for Blue Bricks and I learned what Nathan was doing with his private equity firm, I stopped sourcing because I fell in love with this world and the opportunity there. And I knew that if I applied myself and worked hard, I could really do something with myself. And basically, what happened was I ended up working for the private equity firm. So I'd help them find businesses that were suitable for acquisition. I was an investment analyst. We'd then analyze those businesses and then, a bit like you'd analyze a property deal, look at creative ways you could buy that business and do stuff with it. Um, like, for example, one of the businesses we were looking at was the UK's only Catholic newspaper, I think it was. Really cool, amazing experience. And after a while of doing that, the owner said, we're selling a few businesses. One of those businesses is Blue Bricks. I know that you want to follow in my footsteps. I know that you're ambitious and you want to do your own thing. Why don't you buy Blue Bricks off us? So that's when I bought Blue Bricks magazine 3 years ago, and that's how the journey started, really.
And I guess that there's a lot of comparisons in terms of property to or sourcing to actually sourcing businesses for investment. I mean, there's a few. We can get onto the whole mentor side in a second, but there's definitely a few mentors out there that are saying, "Why are you investing in property when you can buy businesses and I'll teach you how to do it." But the principle is there is that rather than you could be invested in property, the the way that you would analyze a property to make sure that the deal stacks is exactly the same that you would buy a business to make sure that that business stacks and therefore is going to keep you returning revenue because each buy to let is effectively a business within its own right.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, obviously there's turnaround businesses which are the sort of absolute top ends of like your difficulty level. But there's this misconception of buying businesses that everyone's buying a turnaround business, and it's not. You can buy profitable operating businesses that are completely fine. The idea being that you can add value to it in some way. So that's the sort of stuff we looked at. It was, what can you do with the business, but also how can the business feed into the existing operations, and what can you do to improve it? I found it so interesting.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. In terms of so Caroline sells you the business and
Yeah,
you get the keys or the metaphorical keys
yeah.
on day one. What is that first day like?
Um, it's strange, mate, because you're almost like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a baptism of fire, really, because we took it on mid-issue. So what that meant is, because obviously we're a bi-monthly publication, I took it on just as the next issue was going to print and it was halfway done. So I was sort of thrown immediately into the deep end of learning how to put a magazine together. And it was a weird sort of day one because it's like I've got to approach all my advertisers. Um, and say, hi, I've taken on this business. Please trust that I know what I'm doing and, sort of don't leave us.
Yeah.
And then also, making all your subscribers aware that the business is now in a state of transition and I'm a young lad. So please trust that I know what I'm doing. Which was day one. And then I'll be honest, right, a lot of the columnists that were meant to write for us actually didn't submit their articles because they saw me and said, well, no, we're not going to bother because he's a kid and he doesn't know what he's doing. And it's funny because those people have come back to me now and said, "Oh, can we write for you again?" So day one, mate, was an experience of trying to learn how to put a magazine together. And unfortunately, the guy that was doing the handover actually ended up leaving the sort of week that I took over. So I had like a 1 day handover period, and the rest was sort of learning on the go. Yeah, it was tricky.
And did you get any sort of pushback from the readership?
No, not really, mate. No, I think so we sort of put it out publicly that I'd bought the business. I don't think we did a mail list or anything. And I kind of, before I made a big song and dance for it, I wanted to put my first issue together so I could kind of go, look, I've done this issue and it's a good issue. So sort of trust that I can take this forward. So we didn't see any negatives from the readers or even the advertisers. It was predominantly from some of the people who were writing for us that said, oh, we're all right now.
Amazing. So obviously you've now got it under your belt. You've now got the
Yeah.
magazine. Did you have a pre-planned vision of where you could take Blue Bricks, or were you sort of learning on the job, adapting, understanding what works, what doesn't work, and then I've certainly found with UK Homes Network that it's almost that the membership has kind of dictated where UK Homes Network goes because it's never been done before. So you kind of have to learn from what your customers want as opposed to, is that a similar situation with Blue Bricks?
Yeah, I never envisioned Blue Bricks would be what it was today. I never thought we'd do an awards. I never had that planned. I never had like the horse racing or any of the other events planned. I was kind of just taking it as I went. I suppose I was quite naive when I bought it, so I was like, we'll just grow the readership and we'll just grow the advertising. And with a bit more social media and a bit more Facebook ads, the business will automatically grow. And then obviously when you get into business, you realise it's not that straightforward. So yeah, and you're right, my audience. has dictated where we've gone. My audience tends to be more experienced investors, which has changed the content that we do and the way we provide that content and our messaging. It's changed the events that we do and the pricing structure of those events. It's changed the people that we feature in the magazine. Everything has kind of been shaped by the community that's been built.
Yeah, and one impression that I got from you when we first met, and certainly you've been totally consistent with this, is that you've managed to create a magazine and a community that has a really strong set of ethics and morals. Would you mind just sort of sharing, what that sort of mission statement is with the audience? Because it's really powerful.
Yeah, so in two words, no bullshit. Like basically, with the copy with every issue of Blue Bricks magazine that we do, it's about showing the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because any experienced investor will tell you it's difficult. Any experienced investor will tell you it goes wrong on site. There's people that have been investing long enough that have lost money on deals. We're not afraid to talk about not the horror stories in terms of putting people off, but if we're telling someone's story, we'll talk about the things that went wrong, the mental health issues, and how they overcame that, because that's really important. If we're doing a case study on a project, we'll talk about if the builder pulled out midway through, we'll mention that and how the person saved the project. We don't glaze over it. And then with the Blue Bricks Awards that we did, that was all based around ethical investment. So it was, I wanted to showcase landlords that were doing good in the industry, that were contributing to local communities, that were helping with social housing. And the reason I did that was to get those winners to write to the newspapers, which they did, to show landlords in a good light. So yeah, there's a lot of morals in Blue Bricks. If we only want to work with good people, and if you attend any of my events, you will meet people there that genuinely want to help you and genuinely want you to succeed and don't have anything to sell you and will sit down with you with a cup of coffee and walk you through sort of your journey. And that's what I've built really. And that's what I want to keep it at.
Yeah, definitely. I love. We'll get onto the events because I do love coming to them. There's something quite unique about them in the sense that the venue you've got is really nice. It's in city centre of Leeds, Victorian office block or Georgian office block, and it's stunning when you walk in. And all the equipment, everything's like really high tech. It looks fantastic. Like you're going to be in for a big show. And then what really brings the community together is that everyone brings their own food and drink and they all share it at the back of the room. And, there's a real sort of a really great feeling. And I get that impression that when you walk in, the people that I've met are all really genuinely honest, nice people that are great to work with. But there seems to be a level that you've attracted with the magazine. And I wonder if you can sort of share your thoughts on this, is that the likelihood of someone reading the magazine or being involved in the community that is a one-shot wonder, where they say they're going to get involved in property and then disappear, and then you know they have quite a high churn rate. It's very low. It's like the chances of those people coming in, everyone that seems to be involved or working with Blue Bricks or a reader of Blue Bricks seems to have at least got a couple of projects underway, or you can almost guarantee that they're going to start building a portfolio based on, you know, the sort of attitude that they bring to the events. What is that? Why are you so well positioned to attract those serious people in property?
I think first of all, it's the content that you put out there, whether that's a speaker at an event or someone that you're publishing in the magazine. The content that they provide dictates who reads. So, for example, if we're doing content on tax effectively structuring your property portfolio, dealing with difficult tenants, raising finance, those are quite high level things. So, therefore, the people reading that are going to be higher level people. Higher level people. If you're someone that wants to get rich quick and is a sort of fly by night property sourcer, if you pick up Blue Bricks, there's not going to be much in there that's of relevance to you. So, I think that helps. And then with the events, it's the same thing, having speakers that are talking about higher level subjects, like we had Scott Marshall at the last one from Roma Finance, that brings a higher level of investor. And then when you've got a higher level of investor and landlord in the room, they can smell bullshit from a mile away. So basically, when you've got people that have been in property 2 decades, if you go in there like, oh, I've got this £1 million property deal and everything else, you're not going to survive because they'll see straight through you. So that's it, it kind of builds upon itself until it sustains itself in a way.
Yeah, definitely. And there is a lot of that going around at the moment in terms of, I, I think if we ever see you in front of a Lamborghini on the front cover saying "Get rich in 12 months," something's gone horribly wrong. But you've managed to really stay clear of those individuals. Why? How have you managed to sort of filter those guys out? Because that's something we're quite conscious of with UK Homes Network, and that obviously you've had experience in deal sourcing, you've seen those kind of individuals operating. How have you managed to push away those sort of influences within the industry?
I think first and foremost now it's the messaging. People know me, know what I stand for, and I think they just stay clear now.
Yeah,
I think again the other way we've done it is by building people around us that are very good and that sort of repels people. And I think lastly, you know, there have been people that have come into my rooms that are not particularly great people and have caused problems, but they don't come back because there's no one there for them to bounce off or victimize in a sense because people are too wise to it. That's the way I've done it. I think it's just consistency, consistently having that message, consistently doing things to a certain level. Eventually, you weed it out over time. It's not easy, especially in the early days when you're building a platform, because you attract the people that want a platform, and those people are typically the ones with something to sell. A lot of the most amazing people we've had in Blue Bricks are people that are quite hidden or quite, they're not the biggest names in the industry. They're just operating under the radar, bloody building hotels and doing incredible things, but they're so busy doing these incredible things that they don't have time for a camera crew to follow them around a refurb.
yeah, 100%. So in terms of the magazine, it's fantastic. It's monthly. People can get a hold of it. What in terms of so you've got the community. So we've got the live event in Leeds, which happens every month, and that's fantastic. But that there's so much more to Blue Bricks, isn't there? Because obviously you've had the awards, you've had houses and horses, you've had the clay pigeon shooting. Can you tell us a little bit more about those events and what the story is behind those?
Yeah, so I sat down with, so it's basically what a lot of people might not know is Nathan Winch, who owned the private equity firm that sold Blue Bricks to me, is my business partner. He sold the business to me 100%. And then when I built it up a bit, he ended up reinvesting into the business. And we're kind of, he's one of my closest friends and we're business partners now. And Nathan throws ideas at me sometimes. Nathan is such an incredible person. He'll make a fucking mega idea sound simple. And one of his grand ideas was, you should do an awards ceremony. So that's how like the bigger events sort of started out. We did the awards ceremony, which took a lot of work but was incredible. We hired out Peckfort and Castle. We had 250 people there. Incredible event. And then from there, I had the idea like I want to do more higher level events that were a bit different because most networking's dead boring. Most networking events are full of people that want to sell to you. And most networking events, you sit in the car park before you enter the room going, let me sort of mentally prep myself for this. And I thought, real relationships are built when people let the guard down and when people are having fun and when people feel like they can be themselves. And I thought, well, then I want to do events that give people that feeling, but also add value at the same time. So you're not just going to an event just for fun, but you're not just going just for the property knowledge. So that's why I did my first one, which was a clay pigeon shooting day. And we had like three guest speakers, Hayley Andrews, Andy Graham, and Nick Thorpe, all mega experienced investors, all titans in the industry, sharing massive value. And then we had clay pigeon shooting in between that as well for the fun. The other week we did horses and housing. We hired out a box at Doncaster Racecourse. Everyone got suited and booted, watched the racing, but we also had a live Q&A with the Castor Property Elevator, and we had the Developers Club doing a keynote presentation as well. So people got massive value, but then we all had a few drinks, bet on some horses, had a really good laugh, and massive relationships were built off the back of that. And that's where the kind of ideas stem from. And I have seen it work because people are letting the guard down, people are having fun, people are laughing, and then people are building friendships, and then business is happening.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely love that, and doing something a little bit more unique. I mean, we've
Yeah.
tried to do that with the brewery, but you guys have really gone with it with like the activity side of it, and actually giving someone uh, almost there's a little bit of competition in the room as well, which is really healthy for people in property. We're all quite
Yeah.
competitive, whether it's betting on the horses or whether it's trying to shoot a clay pigeon out of the sky. That's brilliant. So, what's next for Blue Bricks?
We're doing a second award ceremony next year. I can't say too much on the details yet because we'll do the full announcement shortly. Um, we're also launching a new product within Blue Bricks called My Business Pass that's going to be sort of a standalone business as well. We're doing another version of Blue Bricks in terms of a subscription for a bit like you've got your premium version. We're creating a premium version for Blue Bricks, and then we're also launching another magazine at the moment as well. So lots on at the moment. What's difficult about my life at the moment is I'm building, and I suppose it's a bit like if you're building a new build house. I'm at the point of doing the foundations and the brickwork, and it's hard because you're working hard, but you've not seen the finished new build house yet. That's where I'm at, and I can't wait for the next few months where the hard work of my business past and the new magazine and the award starts to become a bit more visible.
Yeah, in property you get CGIs. In business, there's no such thing as a CGI.
Yeah,
You can't see what it's going to look like at the end. So yeah, I totally get that. This has been something you've been sort of guerrilla marketing for the last couple of months now, and I'm going to press you on this, Sam.
yeah.
My business pass. What? Can you give us a bit more information on what my business pass is?
Yeah, I can do now because we're close to launch. You'll know better than anyone, Chris. Trying to launch an app is the hardest thing I've ever done. Take what any timeline someone gives you, double it, and that's when it'll be created. Because I started marketing this ages ago, thinking we're launching in April. We're now approaching June, and the app's just been built, and we're going to the App Store, so we're getting there now. So I'm bored of guerrilla marketing at this point. Basically, what my business pass is. It started out as an idea that we wanted to add value to members of Blue Bricks magazine as always, and I thought it'd be great if we could get discounts with suppliers, architects, that kind of thing for members of Blue Bricks. And then I thought, I want something a bit cooler than that. I want like a Blue Bricks membership card. And me and Nathan sat down over dinner, had a bit of a brainstorming idea, and Nathan said, I think you're thinking too small. I think you should do it for business owners, not just property. So what we've ended up doing is it's transformed now into, if anyone's familiar with Blue Light Card is a business for emergency services. So like NHS, police, teachers are on there, firefighters are on there. Basically, you subscribe to this app and it gives, the emergency services discounts like Domino's Pizza, River Islands, Alton Towers. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we did a blue light card, but for business owners, rather than getting discounts at Domino's Pizza, business owners get discounts on petrol and diesel, on parking, on solicitors' fees, accountancy fees, marketing fees, hotels, restaurants. And that's what I've created essentially an app for a lifestyle app for business owners that gives them discounts on all business related expenses, partnered with companies like Zero, Currys, and other well-known brands in the UK that business owners are using. And that's what's coming out and launching soon. Now, members of Blue Bricks magazine are going to get access to that app for free for the first year. Members of our premium tier are obviously going to get lifetime access to that as well.
That's incredible. I can't tell you how much I would have needed that. Well, I still need it now, but I mean, to have something like that when I first started out 18 months ago would have been huge. So, yeah, it's an incredible idea, and I'm going to be one of the first people that signs up to it. So, I really can't wait for that. Um,
Yeah,
in terms of the magazine, what have we got coming out next month?
yeah, so the issue that's going to print on Monday, that the front cover of that is Hayley Andrews. She's done, if you know Hayley, you'll know she don't pull any punches. She's done a great article basically on the reality of raising finance, what investors look for, and basically why not to bullshit and how to approach things properly. Fantastic article. We've got a brilliant article on there about a gentleman that was a portfolio landlord who lost everything, was homeless, and then built it back and built a charity, and he's talking about his charities for homelessness and mental health, talking about social housing, the inner workings of that. We've got you in there, Chris, so I'm really looking forward to. You've done a fantastic article on social media for property investors and how property investors can actually do more with social media to get results. We've got loads in there. I'm trying to think of who the other ones are. I've got the Developers Club. Yeah, some really good articles in there coming out.
Yeah, really exciting. Guys, we're going to close up in a minute. If you've got any questions for Sam, please do drop them in the chat. We'd love to put your questions to Sam. So if you've got any, please do. Sam, I'm just going to share that QR code because we've obviously talked a bit about the magazine, and just wanted to reshare that in terms of our membership, obviously getting access to it. So it's been really exciting talking to you, and the journey that Blue Bricks has been on and where you're going with it. Um, it seems like you've really identified your customer and you've really listened to them in terms of what their requirement is. I think it's quite refreshing to see that a business is creating a whole ecosystem around their specific customer. And I'll give you a lot of praise and a lot of respect for that, Sam. So yeah, thanks very much for joining us. Is there anything that you want to plug before we finish up today?
No, no, that's all. I'd say, if you want to learn more, scan that QR code, come to the online event, read the magazine, and sort of decide for yourself if what we're about is for you and if you find it valuable. And if not, cancel for no cost. That's why we do the 3 month trial, is just to give people that option to find out for themselves, really.
Great stuff. Mark's just put you had me at Chris in the mag, lol. So I think you've got your first subscriber from the magazine.
There we go, Chris. You're an influencer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. Great stuff. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I really, really appreciate you joining us today. You've been really active in the UK Homes Network over the last couple of weeks, and we're really excited to have you with us. Obviously, you'll be with us at the live event. So if anyone wants to come down and meet you in person, then please do. But obviously, with the live events that you've got coming up in Leeds, I can personally recommend them. That they're absolutely fantastic. So if anyone wants to reach out to Sam regarding any of the events, or drop me a message, I'll be happy to refer you to the link and get you signed up. But yeah, have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Thank you so much, Sam, and we'll catch you next week.
Pleasure. Thank you for that. I'll see you soon, Chris.
Cheers.